tyres. Nobody opting for softs at the start of this one.
Yeah, it doesn't seem that people feel the need to use them at this point. We know it's a short-lived tyre, that Dunlop soft tyre, so I think maybe at this point it's just let's feel it out. You know, those who are at the back of the pack, I think, are maybe just hoping that they can make their way through, but there's no big strategic plays there, which means all the action, all the overtakes are going to happen on track.
Yeah, it certainly is, and you can see there, this is the calm before the storm now, really, for these drivers. They're sat there in the rigs, and I guarantee if we had a heart rate monitor on them, they would be beating out of their chest, because despite the fact that we've got some very experienced drivers in the GT World Series, that pressure, that tension, it all comes down to the performances out on track, and they know that this is the first opportunity for them to go well, really, to get those points on the board, to start their season off in the right way, and to hopefully help their teammates with the opportunity. Let's see what happens then as Manufacturers' Cup 2026 begins here at the Nordschleife. Jose Serrano leads the field across the line, followed by Kroll, followed by Sedjak and Balding, etc. Then the hard shot runners of Moreno will be in the background. Let's see what they can do as we come down the Dottinger and head in towards the left-hander as we go over the rise. Will we see any changes for position? Because it's a very long straight, and look at that already, because you've got Sedjak attacking against Maximilian Kroll for second position. We flick it through the left-hander. Kroll does manage to hold on to P2 for now, but at the front of the race, it's Jose Serrano that leads for Porsche.
Yeah, really surprising to not see any big position changes there, given the nature of the run down to what was Garbenkopf now, as we come backwards and sort of make our way slowly towards the Belfast. We're on board with Moreno in the BMW right now, and to be honest, at the moment there's not really anywhere to overtake for this section. Just try and get close to the car in front. At the moment, Balding and the top four, a little bit of a gap, and that's because they're on that medium compounder tyre. They're going to have a pace advantage early on in this race, so the closer Moreno and the rest of the half runners can stay to the medium shot drivers, the better. As you watch Sedjak now in third position behind Kroll. Always been very quick in that Nissan GTR, but 6 laps here at the ring. It's going to be a challenge for even him.
Certainly is. On board we are then with Jack Balding as we flick it through this left and then the right-hander through the forest, but in the opposite direction. On board we are now here with the British driver, and as we said, qualifying is one thing. Doing it under racing circumstances, though, is completely different. You can see we're now rising up the hill as opposed to at this particular point when we would be dropping down it. Just a point to mention, by the way, whilst we're on the opening lap of action, we are experiencing a technical issue with the PlayStation account of GT7. It means the viewer campaign isn't working at the moment, but it's a work in progress. You can still watch and claim the gift even after the stream has ended. You've got a couple of weeks, so don't panic if you can't watch it from your PlayStation 5 at the moment. We will get that sorted and you will be rewarded as a result of it. But Jack Balding there, still in fourth place, still pretty static at the front of this race on this opening lap.
Yeah, I mean, we're coming up now to what will be probably one of the overtaking zones. It'll be the run down towards Bergwerk after the carousel here. Let's see if these guys can get through here better than I did. They can, what a surprise.
It's almost like it's their job.
It almost is, yeah. Very difficult way to put the car in there. Like I said, you're under a lot of load coming downhill there, and it's very easy just to get it wrong on the way in. As we now come down towards what will be the mud curve at the bottom here. There is Serrano leading away. The gap up to almost a second, so he's almost getting out of slipstream range, which is a good indicator that the pace is there for Serrano and Team Porsche. Although I've got to say Moreno and Santos there, the hard runners in the BMW and Lexus, doing a good job to stay within touching distance too. So that hard tyre maybe a bit improved over what it was last year.
I suppose that's the name of the game, isn't it, really, when you're on that hard tyre at the moment, is damage limitation, really. If you can stick with the medium job runners as best as you can. I mean, 6 laps doesn't sound like a long time. Here at the Nordschleife, as we said, about 45-minute race duration, all being well for the drivers. So those who are on the hard tyres, all from 5th place downwards, they've just got to make sure they keep in touching distance of the cars in front, and they will be in a good position come the end of it, because, of course, they'll have quicker tyre compounds to run, in theory. So looking at Sedjak then, sitting in the wheel tracks here of Maximilian Kroll, and Sedjak, as I said, finished on the podium in Berlin last year. The Polish driver, let's see what he can do here for Nissan. They are the 2023 Manufacturers' Cup champions. Ferrari, they've never won a Manufacturers' Cup title. Last time they were on the podium was back in Prague in 2024. Yeah,
Sedjak getting very close there in the GTR, but this is where you have one of the challenges of driving around the ring here, is just where do you pass? Where do you pass? And when you do pass, you have to really, really throw it in. So here's Paul Ura. Bad qualifying, can put him down P7 for Team Mazda. What happened to him? Oh, just wide there, onto the grass. I'd love to hear what corner that is, but I've got no idea from this perspective. And down to P9, so it goes to bad to worse. Actually now in P10 is Paul Ura, so really having a bad start to this race here this season. the Manufacturers' Cup for Team Mazda. Meanwhile, we go back on board with Sejak, and both him and Kroll, I think, have closed up a little bit onto the back of Serrano now. So Serrano maybe not as quick as we first thought there, or maybe these guys keep a little bit extra in attack, but Sejak now really starting to push Kroll along. I think he's starting to get a little bit impatient, Tom.
Yeah, exactly. We're coming in towards the first Nürburgring circuit, the second half as we look at it. Let's have a look at Jack Bolding, Maximilian Kroll, and also Nikolai Sejak at the start of this race. And this is coming down into the Dottinger Herd. You can see side by side there between the Ferrari and the Nissan. Sejak looking for that move on the outside, but Kroll just about managing to cover him off at this particular point. We cross back to live racing action then here. So Sejak it is that's still in third position. He hasn't managed to find his way through on the German driver for now, but as you say, certainly signalling a statement of intent here, because he's all over the rear wing of that 296.
And Serrano now also back into it, so I thought maybe that this would be an easy run for Serrano, but the top three really close now. Sejak is starting to get a little bit impatient. Where do you pass it on this version of the circuit? I think maybe you can have a go. Up here, if you've got a slipstream, you see Kroll there pulling out to try and not be in the draft for whatever reason. No BOP to try and hide here, but then now it's just free press. Look at this, how close this is after almost a lap here of the ring, coming now down down the hill. Speed's really high at this point, and now you have to try and pick your braking point. You're braking uphill here, so you can brake quite late, but really easy to overdo it and end up on the curbs and then end up in the wall, like we saw Paul Ura did earlier on in the lap.
Wouldn't mind being in Jack Baldwin's cockpit at the moment. He's got box office seats to this trio of drivers in front of him as it stands for the time being. The top three, as you can see, separated by just about half a second or so as they head towards the end of this first lap. Now I wonder if we're going to get the hard shot runners coming in at the end of lap one and going on to either the medium or the soft competitive tyres. That might be our first time we'll see a divergence in strategy as Sejak just brushes the grass on the outside there.
You don't get away with that very often out of the ring, I tell you that. So Sejak there doing well, don't keep the car pointing the right way. And now we come back onto the GP circuit. So this might be traditionally the best place to pass if you're close enough. But you see Kroll and Serrano already sort of eking the gap out a little bit from Sejak behind. Bolding is still there or thereabouts behind, so the top four all have pulled away, unsurprisingly, on that softer compounded tyre, the medium, softer than the hard. I know what I'm saying. It's a medium compounded tyre. And Moreno there leading the hard tyre runners. So, of course, all tyres must be used, the medium, hard and the soft, and that will come into play a bit later on. Now, we use the cut through here, not the full GP circuit, which is a really tough corner from this angle, because on the exit, the road falls away from you. You end up going off into the grass on the outside. So there is our Dunlop tyre strategy down the bottom left-hand corner there. The soft tyre, we think only good for one lap, and these mediums only for two. So Serrano's only going to have one more lap of pace at the front before having to choose which way to go.
Absolutely, and we have seen drivers bucking the trends of that in the GT Mod series pretty much ever since day dot, so let's wait and see whether that strategy will prove to be the one that they'll follow, or whether we'll see anybody coming in at the end of this pit lane. Don't think it'll be the case for the medium tyres, because of course they're quicker than the hard shot runners that are out at the moment, so we'll come across the line. Serrano it is, of course, that will still lead with Kroll and Sejak, so they blast past the pit lane and head down towards the Dottinger Hill. We're coming towards the end now of this first lap. The gap to Moreno, the first of those hard shot runners, up to nearly 5 seconds, so you can just see how different it is in terms of the pace over the course of this lap, because especially where it's one at a time and there's all these medium speed corners, you're just eking out a tenth here, a tenth there, and that gap has built up quite significantly as we come to the end of that first tour here.
So here it is, probably the second opportunity to overtake here. A huge straight. Here comes the slipstream, and actually looking back there from Serrano, that Ferrari already starting to catch in the slipstream there. With just a little bit extra, a little bit less air resistance. So the car now putting up to the back of the rear wing. Maybe he's close enough. Serrano is very heavily defending the inside here, but it might not matter. There goes Kroll, maybe up into the lead. Yeah, just about by up into the lead goes Kroll in Team Ferrari. So all it took there was a long straight, and now the home favourite, Team Ferrari, up into the lead, but only for now. Serrano is now glued to the rear end of that Ferrari, and we know he's not going to let him get away.
I tell you what, it does make things interesting though, because the Dottinger Herd, normally it's down halfway down that straight really, you see who's being made. It's right towards the end of it, so you have to have a lot of commitment, especially going through that left-hander at the end of it. So good stuff from Kroll there, great from Jose Serrano. Decided not to fight that one too much, did he really? Tried to defend it on the inside, but he knows it's going to be in vain, such as the length of that Dottinger Herd straight. And Now all he's got to do is sit there behind Kroll, hope that either the German driver makes a mistake here at this reverse Nordschleife layout, or Serrano can just maybe save the tyres, save a bit of fuel at this early stage of the race, and just maybe work out where Kroll's weaker, because coming towards the end of it, that could prove to be the difference between winning and losing this one potentially.
You see Kroll climbing all over these curves. Some of them, I think maybe his luck might run out at some point. These curves are very high here on the Nürburgring, and if you touch them in the wrong way, they tend to just spit you out. So Kroll there playing with fire, but that's the pace you need to bring to these competitions. You need to really use everything at your disposal. Which right now Kroll is trying to do to build a gap from the reigning champion, Jose Serrano.
Antonio Santos, meanwhile, has just dropped behind Kylian Drumont, so the Frenchman is up into 5th position. So clearly, Santos has made a mistake on that lap, or just been passed on the Dossinger Herb potentially. But yeah, half a second or so, relatively speaking, for the gap between Drumont and Santos. Maybe it's just an overtake there, 4th position between those two drivers. But either way, good news there for Kylian Drumont. The gap, though, between the hard and the medium shot runners now up to 6.5 seconds here as we're on lap 2.
Yeah, we're looking really interesting strategic options opening up here for our drivers. I mean, I was just looking at Kylian Drumont there when you were chatting to each other, and he's gained 4 places since the start of his race, so he is moving. So he is quick on that hard tyre. Maybe we don't see it particularly now because he's down in P5, but that Audi, he was saying it's quick. So here's a look back. Here is Drumont and Santos. Moreno there, just a sick duck in a straight line, getting just split there by Santos and by Drumont. And you must think of Moreno, oh, god damn it. what can I even do about that?
Ricardo Zonta Simulator 2026, that's what that was. Look at this.
Brave Drumont was there.
Super commitment. Good also awareness from Santos just to give him that racing room on the inside. Fantastic from Kylian Drumont and also Antonio Santos. Sat there for Moreno, but it might come back to him a little bit later on. He's still sitting on the coattails of the Lexus in 7th place as it stands for now. Point to mention as well for the likes of Paul Ura and Miroslav Kravchenko. I actually shared the taxi with them from the airport over to the venue here in Milan yesterday and was chatting away to them. They were saying that basically the cars that they're driving, the Mazda and the Lamborghini, not the fastest out there on track. They've struggled a bit with the balance of performance updates for 2026, and as such that's why they're a fair way off as it stands for now. They'll be hoping for a bit more fortune and hopefully a little bit more pace later on this year. Now, delighted to be able to welcome to the commentary box Nico Menzel. Nico, great to have you here. Thank you so much for joining us. First of all, you know the Nordschleife very well. What do you make of it in reverse?
It's unbelievable. I almost do not recognize it anytime. But, it's actually, now I can see there's a crazy track we're racing in. Because I think we are used to drive the normal Nordschleife. And now you can actually feel the quick corners, the craziness about the barriers being so close. And it's great. Cool.
Yeah, I mean, for me, the scariest part is the idea of coming down from Mudcove to Bergwerk at like 280 kph and then having to stop at the end there. I just can't imagine that in real life. But obviously, Gran Turismo here has a very accurate version of the ring, and you're very familiar with this Porsche here. I mean, did you find yourself using the simulators to try and prepare for these events?
Yeah, for sure. I also prepared myself for the 24. I mean, I'm used to drive this car on this track for many years, but still to get back in the rhythm, after a while not being in the car is always helpful. And especially I practice the night, because the vision in the night is obviously different. I also practiced the bad weather in the night, which is very special on this track, and honestly it helped me a lot. During the night, especially just getting in the rhythm quicker, and it's fairly crazy to see back Arenberghoven and Schwedenkreuz should be easy flat out that way, but another good opportunity for an overtake now following all the way up to Flugplatz.
Yeah, you can see Serrano here sitting in the wheel tracks of Maximilian Kroll as we come over that crest of the hill. He's going to pull to the outside of the Ferrari then, so it's Ferrari versus Porsche, Serrano versus Kroll, and Serrano then with the outside line, which is going to flick to the inside line as they come over the crest and go into the left-hander, and the Spanish driver back through and into the lead once again. Fantastic commitment from Serrano and great driving also from Kroll.
It's so foreign to me seeing these guys go that quickly. Like, there's no exit there for the Flugplatz. It's so mad. I mean, obviously we had the 24 recently. Very interesting experience for everyone involved.
Yeah.
I mean, how do you think if you have any advice to give these guys now? Of course, completely different experience, although maybe slightly similar. How would you? What advice would you give these guys driving on this circuit in this configuration?